Welcome to Smash Fiction, where we pit two or more fictional characters against each other in a battle of sick riffs, screaming vocals, and some of the dumbest, most quotable lines you'll ever hear. And see who tops the charts. This week, Dethklok versus Wyld Stallyns. You know, it seems like the world has really gone off the rails lately. An evil witch runs Hogwarts, a telekinetic teenage psychopath roams the countryside. No one's even seen Batman since that one time he headed to Latveria.
Goddamn right! Doom!
Never before have the people of Earth been more in need of a guiding hand. Fortunately, the Flight of the Conchords, newly empowered after a bizarre Terrigen Mist-related accident, have turned their omnipotence toward addressing the increasing chaos. Both Brett and Jermaine believe that the Earth has too many dicks on the dance floor, but they disagree on the direction the world should take. After rambling through the avenues of time, Brett has concluded that humanity doesn't have to be a prostitute to despair. He's ready to invite the whole world to party with the party prince in Utopia. However, Jermaine has a decidedly different worldview. The world is full of mother-uckas who keep ucking with his shit, and he's more than happy to tell them to kiss his sugar lumps and turn them over to the robots. The two godlike beings can't use their godlike power against each other directly for fear of destroying the very Earth they're trying to save, so each decides to appoint a representative to act on their behalf. A contest of champions, if you will. Brett applies some inner-city pressure to the walls of time and space, reaches into the San Dimas, California of the early 90s, and pulls forth Bill S. Preston, Esquire, Ted Theodore Logan, and a handful of robots, princesses, and the Grim Reaper, the band with the not-at-all misspelled name of Wyld Stallyns. Meanwhile, Jermaine gets down to business time and opens a lip-based portal to another Earth, where he finds that world's biggest death metal band and that world's 7th largest economy, Dethklok. The two bands are given a task by their summoners. Use their considerable performance skills to sway the population of the world to their side and away from the other. Will the Wyld Stallyns bring forth a utopia of day-glo shoulder pads and the eternal reign of President George Carlin? Or will Dethklok fulfill the prophecy of the Doomstar and bring about a new age of death and metal and death metal? Tits Fino. That's why I, Kit Mulcairn, will be your most excellent and totally fucking metal judge for this week.
Oh, brutal.
Oh my god.
Representing Wyld Stallyns is Dan S. Mulcairn, Esquire.
You're not metal, you're silky boys. Silk comes from the butts of Chinese worms.
And Miles Theodore Schneiderman.
Excuse me? When did Dethklok rule the world? Oh, that's right, never.
Representing Dethklok, our special guest returning from the Sup Nerds podcast, Josh Taulbee, taller than a tree.
Idea for podcast. Murder. Wyld Stallyns gets murdered and eaten at one of those all-you-can-eat buffets. Yeah.
And Spike.
Oh, and that happens forever. Yeah.
And Spike, not a bumblebee.
Guys, I do cocaine.
like it's just unapologetic. Like you're just coming out like, did this shit just get real? Like,
I do cocaine. Is this not my intervention?
Spike, I think you've discovered the anti-impression.
Somebody had to eventually.
To determine who goes first this week, I had the advocates engage in a shape-shifting wizard's duel, sword in the stone style. Of course, both sides, knowing that I would be judging, immediately chose to turn into Godzilla. But Team Wyld Stallyns caused way more collateral damage, and isn't that just one of the best parts of a kaiju fight? Team Wyld Stallyns, party on, dudes!
Hello, Smash Fiction! Please welcome from San Dimas, California, the most important figures in history, Wyld Stallyns! You may think I'm being most hyperbolic by describing these dudes and dudettes as such, but let me assure you, as big as Dethklok may be, they can't hold a concert lighter to Wyld Stallyns. The core of the Stallyns is, of course, Ted Theodore Logan and Bill S. Preston Esquire. The first thing to know about these two is that they are insanely likable, ridiculously charismatic, and able to make instant lifelong friends with little more than a smile and an air guitar riff. Think about all the historical figures they managed to recruit to go with them on an excellent adventure through time. Socrates, Billy the Kid, Joan of Arc, Napoleon, Abraham Lincoln. In a lot of these cases, they only have a few seconds with these people before they convince them to join, oftentimes without even sharing a language. These guys make friends so easily that within about 15 minutes of meeting them, Genghis Khan is more than happy to clean their toilet. This most bodacious ability of theirs is on even more blatant display in the second movie. They convince a couple of Martians to leave heaven and make robots for them. And then, both the Martians and the robots end up joining the band. They convince the Grim Reaper to join in their bogus journey, and then he also joins the band. They even managed to talk God himself into helping them. How is Dethklok even still a contender against the Stallions and their astronomical charisma score at this point?
I'm so happy Colin isn't here.
Speaking of the lineup of the Stallions, not only do they have aliens, robots, and the embodiment of primal cosmic forces, but they have something which Dethklok could never hope to have. Women. And this speaks to another reason that the Stallions have a huge advantage over Dethklok. They and their message are inherently more inviting, inclusive, and universal than that of their rivals. Wyld Stalyn are much more than musicians. The first time they play a real show, we see them unite the entire world, regardless of nation or economic class. We see headlines in the weeks and months afterward. Stallions tour Midwest, crop increase 30%. Bill and Ted tour Mideast, peace achieved. Stallions use world nuclear arsenal to fuel amplifiers. Air guitar found to eliminate smog. B&T, we have nothing bad to say about them. Wyld Stallyns to play Mars. Their music opens up humanity to the wonders of the universe and redefines what our species is capable of. And their philosophy helps to guide humanity to a new level of existence over the course of centuries. Dethklok may have a sizable fan base, but their fans have been seen to be fickle at times, particularly when they view Dethklok as selling out, which they do all the time, or when they believe, probably correctly, that Dethklok is responsible for the death of a loved one. Hell, the Revengeancers are made up of people who used to be Dethklok fans and now want to literally kill them. Think about what Wyld Stallyns' 700-year dominance means. It means that what they did was so revolutionary, so universal, and so game-changing that no one rivaled their message and no one opposed their message for 700 years. Yes, Dethklok is powerful in their own way. Yes, they have money and fans and very impressive vehicles. But in the end, they're basically just an exaggerated version of the Beatles. But in the words of George Carlin, Wyld Stallyns' music has become the foundation of our whole society. Their music will help put an end to war and poverty. It will align the planets and bring them into universal harmony, allowing meaningful contact with all forms of life, from extraterrestrial beings to common household pets, and it's excellent for dancing. Contrary to what people might think, the Beatles were never bigger than Jesus, and Dethklok is never going to be bigger than the Wyld Stallyns.
Yeah, exaggerated Beatles is good, Dan. That's really good. I'm gonna go with death metal Spinal Tap myself. You know, a band known for controversial albums, disastrous live performances, a specific position in the organization held by people who keep dying, and breaking up over relationship issues and jazz side projects. And it's even more of an apt comparison because Dethklok can remake the world with their music about as easily as David and Nigel can. But what's really weird is that they're about as interested in remaking the world with their music as David and Nigel are. Dethklok as a band are undeniably brutal, but they have neither the ability nor the inclination to succeed at anything else. Let's take a moment to examine the members of Dethklok as people. So their outward appearance as an unstoppable force of totally metal destruction doesn't really match what we see of them as individuals. I mean, part of the appeal of Metalocalypse is that the guys in the band are actually kind of sweet. And I mean sweet, not sweet. In the episode Death Kids, Toki Wartooth attempts to compensate for his extreme adorableness by artificially upping his personal brutality. He fails. In Death Fashion, when the band finds out that their new clothes are constructed of special leather, made from the skin of models who had been murdered, they are horrified, even though those have to be the most metal clothes in history. In Death Record, Toki and Murderface pitch a song for the new album called Takin' It Easy, a fact that speaks for itself. And of course, Nathan Explosion is constantly looking for love, a search that proves how easy it is to turn these guys against each other. In Girlfriend Clock, the rest of the band kidnaps and tortures Nathan until he agrees to dump his girlfriend, and of course, his later infatuation with Abigail, I can't pronounce her last name and I'm not going to try, puts him into conflict with the similarly love-struck Pickles. So, the only time the members of Dethklok actually live up to their black-hearted reputation is when they have to try and get along with each other. And they usually suck at that too. Hell, the only reason they even try to rescue Toki from the Revengeancers is because the Toki hologram they try to replace him with malfunctions. But even so, there's still the music, right? The songs that drive fans into a frenzy, turn Dethklok into the world's 7th largest economy, and will ultimately bring on the end of the world. Kinda. I mean, like Dan said, Dethklok manages to alienate even their obsessive fan base, at one point playing a song about how much they hate their fans, and driving the two people who run the biggest Dethklok fan site on the internet to blackmail them. The world's 7th largest economy is great and everything, but come on, man. The world's 6th largest economy is France, and they aren't exactly ruling the world. And as far as the apocalypse goes, Dethklok isn't here for it, y'all. If not for the Church of the Black Clock, which Dethklok didn't even know existed, they wouldn't be dragged into the Metalocalypse at all. Oftenson is the guy pulling most of those strings, and he's the guy who used Dethklok to reconcile Israel and Syria and stop a nuclear war. Oh, some harbinger of Armageddon, stopping a nuclear war, William Murderface walks into a satanic ritual about summoning the 4 demons of the apocalypse, which works, and concludes that, quote, all religions are a bunch of boring crap. And of course, when Nathan Explosion has visions about the Metalocalypse itself, he responds by destroying the album he suspects will bring it about because he's so freaked out about it. Dethklok cares about music and making money, not influencing the world in any direction. These guys are not harbingers of doom. They're just capitalists. Stupidly bad capitalists who can't manage their business without Oftenson, can't figure out how to eat without a chef, drink bleach to improve their health, and embezzle money from their own company. And believe me when I say, if capitalism is what eventually brings this world to its knees, it will be the good capitalists who are responsible.
Most triumphant opener.
Trump 2016.
Team Dethklok. Let the ball removal begin.
All right. So, in the battle for the ultimate fate of humanity, Dethklok has an undeniable advantage. They are the 7th largest economy in the world. They employ an army of fanatic worshippers, have billions of metalhead fans, and are the center of a chaotic maelstrom. Dethklok is more than a band. They are an unstoppable force of violence and brutality. Their shows are a literal bloodbath, and yet their completely devoted fan base continues to attend without a regard for their own safety. And this bleeds into their everyday life. The members of the band can't hardly step out from their highly fortified mansion without someone dying in an absurdly gruesome manner. All this death and chaos requires almost no effort from Dethklok. Their presence turns any location into a ticking time bomb, and all they have to do is just stand there. The world is thrown into chaos just because they hadn't released an album in a while. They are just the eye of the fuckstorm that is evil and devastation. Speaking of some of the members of the band, unlike Wyld Stallyns, each member of Dethklok is an expert musician. Even their worst member, Murderface, can play bass with his dick and headbutt European royalty without missing a note. They have more experience coming out of the gate than the Wyld Stallyns. Dethklok's face-melting shredding will overpower Wyld Stallyns' shitty 80s cover songs and ambient new age horseshit. Now for some facts. Spike!
Thank you for implying that there were no facts in the previous section.
Yeah. I guess because all the facts in the world are in mine. The so-called utopia depicted in Bill and Ted is not a utopia at all. It is a dystopia, a timeline that was never meant to be, and the B&T crew are destroying history in order to uphold their way of life. After falling into enemy hands in 1430, Joan of Arc was tried in the English stronghold of Rowan, and in 1431 she was executed. Most of her charges is related to her wearing of men's clothes and claims that God directly contacted her. Why would Maxine of Arc say such things? Could it be that because in 1429, she was kidnapped by, for all she knows, God, and brought to a place where girls are allowed to wear men's clothes? She died directly because of Bill and Ted, so that they could pass a class. Oops. Billy the Kid and Sigmund Freud would have known all about Lincoln's assassination in 1865, but they said nothing. Weren't they like time-traveling bros hanging out together, chewing gum and putting it in each other's mouths and whatnot? Why wouldn't they be like, hey dude, avoid plays? Because in the original timeline, Lincoln was not assassinated. Joan of Arc, taken in 1429, died 2 years later in 1431. Billy the Kid, taken in 1879, died 2 years later in 1881. Lincoln, taken in 1863, died 2 years later in 1865. The timeline is attempting to fix itself by killing them off, or best case scenario, making them forget. Freud, the only one to live a long, healthy life, was taken in 1901, the same year he published The Psychopathology of Everyday Life. Chapter titles include Forgetting Proper Names, Erroneously Carried Out Actions, San Dimas High School Football Rules. I made that last one up. Combined Faulty Acts, Determinism, Chance, and Superstitious Beliefs. The overall theme of that paper is forgetting. He knows something happened to him. He forgot all about it. He saw something he wasn't supposed to and forgot about it. Beethoven heard things he wasn't supposed to and shortly after went deaf. Bill and Ted use time travel without a care for what the outcome will be, so long as all the future citizens fall in line. In Excellent Adventure, they establish that Wyld Stallyns music has become the foundation for their whole society. Now, that's a society based off of water parks, Ray-Bans, and 80s hair metal. So sure, if you're into those things, and only those things, it's great for you. But if you want to listen to The Cure, The Smiths, I mean, could you listen to Metallica? Their music is not about being excellent to each other.
Can we just keep the first, half of Metallica's career?
In Bogus Journey, we learn about Chuck Demonopoulos or something like that. He's the antagonist, but is he bad? What do we know about him? He's the sit-up champion of the 27th century. He hates Wyld Stallyns. His ideal is order. He does want people to fear him, but also he really enjoyed it when death gave him a Melvin. Is it against the law to be gay in this future? That sounds like it is, and that sounds like a dystopia to me. While Dethklok is accidentally causing the Metalocalypse, Wyld Stallyns will be attempting to save the world and helping cause its destruction. Dude, the road to hell is totally paved with good intentions. Literally, they go to hell. They try to be good and go to hell. In communication.
It's blacker than the blackest black times infinity.
It's brutal.
Strong opening round, but now we're going to take it to the bridge, by which I mean the rebuttals. Team Stallions, be most heinous to your opponents.
All right. You guys did mention that many of Dethklok's fans are loyal to them despite the fact that they tend to die in gigantic numbers. Now, I pointed out in my opening arguments that not every fan is okay with this, and many of them turn to revenge afterwards. But besides that, the fact that Dethklok regularly kills off so many of its fans means that their fan base is perpetually shrinking and will therefore only get smaller as this match goes on. So Wyld Stallyns not only plays around the world, but they also play to other planets, and none of their fans die at any of their shows, even when you think they could, like in Bogus Journey when a robot explodes on stage and not a single member of the audience gets even a single piece of shrapnel. Because I guarantee you, if that was a Dethklok show, that's the first 3 rows of Dethklok supporters gone.
Yeah, we won't deny that. Also, those robots, they take off their faces and it's totally plastic.
Okay. I mean, red hot flying shards of plastic can still kill you, especially if you're at a
idea for a song called Red Hot Shards of Plastic. Totally kill you.
A large part of your argument, which was highly amusing, relied on the idea that the Wyld Stallyns are not trying to craft a utopia, in your view. They are, in effect, crafting a dystopia.
Oh, they're trying to craft a utopia, but failing.
Fair enough. First of all, if your theory is correct, and the Wyld Stallyns are in fact fucking with the time stream, causing time itself to try to correct itself by killing these people off 2 years after they've been kidnapped, then apparently the Wyld Stallyns are more powerful than the time stream because it didn't work.
I mean, they certainly overcome death themselves. You know, that's no small feat.
Yeah, and I would argue that Dethklok actively improves the world in many ways, contrary to being a harbinger of doom. Nathan Explosion becomes governor of Florida at which point, and runs it into the ground, finishes it off with a hurricane. That's helping the world. All right, that's making things better.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, now we alienated everyone in Florida.
It was going to happen at some point.
Old people don't know what podcasts are, kid.
I was expecting Liz to be the one.
Look, you can argue all you want about the future that we see in Bill and Ted being a dystopia. I think that's a blatant and obvious reach. The main point of dissent that we see, the main thing that seems to suggest that it's a dystopia, comes from a single dissenter in the course of 700 years. Now, I would argue that he's more likely insane.
Not a single... No, there is a group of people following him. That's not true. And it doesn't matter if he is the bad guy. Not everyone is following what wants to be. So they claim to be this utopia, And yet there are a group of people, even if it's just the people you see, that do not agree with it. They just don't want to be part of that, whether they are the villains or not.
Some people, by the same token, some people would want to be part of the Dethklok future. So for some people, Dethklok is creating a utopia.
Yeah, so we're getting in a weird, like, loop.
Because we created a feedback loop.
Yeah, like, you know, so I'm not naming any names here, but some people on this very podcast may in fact prefer Dethklok anarchy to Wyld Stallion utopia. The point is that we're looking at a world where Bill and Ted are praised far and wide for solving problems. I mean, come on, man. They got rid of the nuclear arsenal and used it to fuel amplifiers. Who doesn't love that shit?
Yeah, well,
okay?
Dethklok used a nuclear submarine to record an album.
So, great. There's an album. It can probably only be listened to by fish. Who cares?
Yeah,
I will point out that
It's a great album. I have that album.
It's mermaid.
Don't alienate the fish audience.
I will point out the one time Dethklok travels to South America, they end up like basically destroying the rainforest. Like, this is not an all-inclusive band. Bill and Ted are so much more likable and charismatic, and I can tell you this because I know pretty factually that at their worst, at their lowest points, neither of them have ever urinated angrily on things.
And you can't make the point the villain of Bogus Journey was gay just because he enjoyed a wedgie, man. That's dude, that's not cool. All right, there's all kinds of different like things that could be. There's all kinds of kinks and shit. That's not cool,
well,
man.
Whatever
that's
his
not
kinks
cool.
Are, they are not welcome in that society.
He can have whatever kinks he wants
Right?
as long as
he
fucking...
can't in the in the Bill and Ted utopia. He's clearly ostracized for some reason that is not clear. He's clearly ostracized.
He doesn't like Bill and Ted.
I would argue
Yes.
it's more of his wanting to establish an order which he is the leader of. I would say that the reason he's a villain is not because he has kinks. It's
Is he a
because
villain? What does
because
he do
he's
that's
an
bad?
asshole.
Is he a villain? What does he do that's bad?
he takes control over that one building. He sends robots
Okay.
through time in order to assassinate people. And then he
Yeah, that's
attempts
like
to kill
some
them with a
Skynet
gun
type shit.
on live TV in order to gain control of the world.
Okay, he does attempt to kill them, but he doesn't actually kill anybody.
All right, dude's harsh. Okay. Team Dethklok, put the boots to him, medium style.
So what I think is kind of funny is that like you guys have made a lot of our points for us. You say that he runs Florida into the ground and destroys it with a hurricane and then goes and destroys the rainforest. The great thing about Dethklok in this sort of situation is that they don't actively have to do anything. This sort of chaos just happens around them. They were filming a music video and all of a sudden people started getting blood-executed. I mean, that wasn't planned by Dethklok. They didn't plan to summon a troll, but it happened. This sort of stuff just happens all the time. They wouldn't have to lift a finger to destroy society.
Oh, brutal.
But they also, Dethklok hits a demographic that Bill and Ted doesn't. And that's the G-mills.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah, Florida, dude.
I would argue that included in the entire world is G-MILFs. And the entire world is basically Bill and Ted's demographic.
No, see, but I think you're taking the world too broadly. I mean, I could say, like, yeah, Spike is the biggest motherfucker, the biggest asshole in the world. It doesn't
True.
make it true.
But that
Just
is
because
true.
it's printed in a newspaper doesn't make it true. Newspapers can be forged and faked.
Not in the Utopia, sir. Newspapers are perfectly accurate in the Utopia.
I
Well,
feel
those
like
weren't
you
in
guys
the Utopia. Those were in, like, the late 90s.
You guys pointed out that they kidnapped Nathan and tortured him so he would break up with his girlfriend. They were doing him a favor. Don't you guys know that all the good-looking ones is crazy? And the ugly ones, too. Nope, nobody? Okay,
No.
fair enough.
Yep, there's that inclusive.
I'm just gonna let that line speak for itself.
Also, I don't think that it is a reach at all to say it's not a utopia. I mean, you're really kind of reaching to say that it's not a dystopia. You're saying that people get along entirely and then it's just okay, like these other people, we're going to forget about them? No, it is clearly a dystopia.
If we're talking about actual, like, you know, political science arguments here, then it's technically impossible to have a true utopia. The only way you could even simulate that is by basically making everybody like the same things and fall in line to one person's perspective.
Right, like they do.
That's the only.
Like they try to do. So
Yeah,
for
well,
700, you said
that's
it
the
yourself.
closest to a utopia we're gonna get, buddy.
You said it yourself. For 700 years, they listened to 80s hair metal. Fucking kill me, please.
Yeah, like seriously.
Not even good. Not even like.
If you put me on a trip to Mars and you say the only price I have to pay is I have to listen to 80s hair metal the whole trip, I am fucking there.
No, see, at the end of the day, it boils down to, do you hang out with a couple of dudes who talk in that surfer 80s shitty ass tone all the time, listen to nothing but Van Halen, play air guitar, which only they can hear, or do you hang out with the dudes who listen to like awesome shredding metal, will give you drugs, there's a ton of like hot girls just running around, yeah, you may be murdered, but really, isn't it worth it?
And seriously, guys, I do cocaine.
Hey guys, is someone using a sample of thunder in their song, or is that actual thunder?
Oh, that's our lightning solo.
Oh shit! It is the lightning round. One most epic and fateful day, the two bands decide to settle the score once and for all with dueling concerts, the same setup that led to the God mode Brett and Jermaine. As the shows begin and the day begins to look as though it could become the most righteous and metal of days in all of history, suddenly an amp explodes into green flames, horribly burning everyone who paid for floor seating. A woman of green skin, clad in black, materializes from the pyre and lifts her horned head to grin at the shrieking audience.
Oh, shit.
She's back.
Maleficent, having watched the two world-changing forces of rock from her comfortable position at Hogwarts, decides neither of the outcomes of this battle is to her liking. Channeling dark power from her tome of eternal darkness, she casts her favorite kind of spell on the two bands, a sleep spell.
Pargon.
When the rockers finally awaken, they confusedly survey the strange and horrible sights before them. The landscape appears to be made up of a mixture of places like classrooms with bogus teachers, the weird rainbow-colored hills of Toki's imagination, the broken homes where many of the band members were raised by douchebag parents, and many more. Since every member of these bands is an idiot, the groups struggle to understand where it is they are until the forms of Brett and Jermaine appear before them. The godlike New Zealanders explain that Maleficent has trapped the bands in a dreamscape, fashioned from all of their dreams and nightmares combined. But her power, combined with the tome, has made her spell too powerful to break for all of them. The dueling bands will have to finish their fight here to determine who will be awoken from their coma-like slumber without having to get smooched by a prince.
Awaken. Awaken.
Are you guys playing Krampus guitars over there?
Both sides have the ability to lucid dream. Think crazy shit like Inception, or the second episode of Rick and Morty. How will the bands use their dreams to eliminate their opposition? Can they use their opponent's nightmares to their advantage? Your characters are dreaming, so be creative. Team Dethklok, wake up!
Oh god! Go. So here's the great thing I love about this dreamscape, right? So in Bogus Journey, when Bill and Ted are in hell, they show their like Bill and Ted's greatest fears.
Manifest as a bunny, a grandma,
and like a drill instructor, right? Mm-hmm. That is like shit. That doesn't even like apply to a typical day of a Dethklok like fan who's like 12.
Yeah,
right. So the nightmarish hell fuel that is Dethklok's existence will completely overrun Bill and Ted, who's afraid of a bunny, a grandma, and a drill instructor.
It'll be like the devil from Bill and Ted, but just a billion of them, and that happens forever.
Yeah, I think that the Dethklok will be able to produce more horrific imagery than
silly old Wyld Stallyns,
yeah.
The Wyld Stallyns.
Scallions, yeah, cooking insults.
And also, just by the way, Death is really bad at board games. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Team Stallions, it's time to be most unexcellent to your rival band.
So you guys claim that Dethklok can come up with scary stuff, scarier than what terrifies the psyches of Bill and Ted, because Dethklok is a metal band? Dude, the Wyld Stallyns listen to heavy metal. They listen to Iron Maiden canonically. You think that they haven't considered heavy metal symbolism and symbols? If that stuff scared them, it would have appeared in hell. But they're not scared of it. It's their stuff from their childhood that scares them, but heavy metal imagery is not scary to them. Now, when it comes to bringing up fears and nightmares and dreams, what Wyld Stallyns has going for them here is the same thing they had going for them in the main round, which is their versatility and their broad swath of perspectives. First of all, you know that the robots are going to be bringing forth armies of electric sheep. Because, yes, that is indeed what they dream of.
That's not canon.
Now, listen, I don't know what Martians have nightmares about, but I'm guessing it involves lots and lots of tentacles. So
I thought you were going to say red rocks, because that's basically all they talk about.
Don't alienate our Martian.
I mean, maybe it's the rock monster from Galaxy Quest. You know, that's pretty scary too. What do you think?
That CGI really sucked.
Now, what do you think Death has nightmares about?
Losing at board games.
The thing is, you have to look at which of these bands is more fearless. And of the two, one of them, the first time they met Death, gave him a wedgie. I think we know which one is going to be able to weather the storms of nightmares much more easily.
The other thing to consider is that Bill and Ted have traveled through history, and they've traveled to some pretty fucking dark times in history. They are going to be able to use this dreamscape and this lucid dreaming ability to put Dethklok in some pretty heavy situations. Here's how I envision it going. So first you've got Murderface. Finds himself sitting in a chair in a theater. And it's totally lame movie. But then he hears a gun cock behind his head. And the bullet goes into the back of his skull. And oh, it's so metal, and it comes out the front. And then you've got Pickles. And he's like being burned at the stake like Joan of Arc. And Toki and the other fucking dude whose name I can't pronounce, the other Swedish guy, yeah, that guy. They're like fighting in the Battle of Waterloo with Napoleon, and just like they can see all their friends dying around them, and the existential terror of war is flooding through them. Nathan is being assaulted by the nightmares of the two princesses, so he essentially lives in fear and has no free will, as enforced by the patriarchy. So, you know, they're just all going through all this shit, and then finally in the end, they find themselves together, and they're all sitting in front of computer screens. And every computer screen contains the website for their personal bank accounts. And they're just watching the money drain. They're watching the money drain out of their bank accounts. Until finally, they all flash zero. Oh god, it's all over.
Going to stop to shop at food libraries now?
They don't know how they're going to eat. They don't know how they're going to drive around with machine guns on their cars. They might have been able to handle being burned at the stake, being shot in the head, whatever, but the elimination of their accumulated wealth and power is going to be too much for Dethklok as they descend into the raving madness they've always been too close to in the first place, and desperately turn to like random-ass fast food jobs for money, where they will eventually have no success and then turn to modeling, and then they will be starved and skinned by the guy who made their clothes that one time. That's what's going to happen in this dreamscape here, guys.
Yeah, and I don't think Dethklok is going to give a shit about any of that.
Wow,
I don't think they do. They have they're human. They have
their
souls.
cook is a dude who's sewn together wrong.
Back together wrong.
back together wrong?
Back together wrong.
Do you have any idea how sad Toki is going to be?
You're right. You are
Toki?
correct. I will give you that. Toki would probably just be real sad.
Yeah.
Pickles, no.
He's gonna
Murderface, are you kidding me? Murderface will just kill everyone.
With the money? He's not going to care about the money.
The guy got nothing for his birthday. He just talk shit about his friends.
Yeah, and he was pissed off about that until they finally gave him something.
I think Murderface would be okay because he tried to make his own band, his side project. I think he would just go back to the side project.
Guess what? They're also going to take his penis. You know what's going to happen to his penis? The same thing that happened to Skwisgaar's hands in that one episode, where he got the, the cilantro on his hands and his face when he was teaching that guitar class, and it swelled up and shit. That's what's going to happen to Murderface's penis.
Now
It's going to be...
really...
No, it's going to be totally
it'll
unusable.
Double in size to 2 inches.
It's going to be totally
how,
unusable. Red, irritated, and swollen.
I love how like descriptive you're having to be when all the nightmare fuel that we need for Bill and Ted is a dude in a uniform, an old woman who Skwisgaar is probably fucking, and an Easter bunny who Toki probably is in love with.
Well, look, we can get a very clear sense of what Dethklok's greatest dreams are from the imagery in the Thunderhorse music video, which I will remind you is one member of the band horrifically murdering the other 4 members of the band.
Yeah, it's just a work of art, man. A masterpiece.
All right, that was actually really beautiful, guys. A beautiful dream.
Against all odds.
What dreams may come, indeed. I think I need to process all of this nightmare fuel. And maybe do some cocaine. Bye.
You know, I was thinking, how horrible would it be if Dethklok and Wyld Stallyns did a compilation album together? Like, if they, like, worked together and tried to form a supergroup?
No, you know what they should do is they should just cover each other's songs.
I mean, I can think of an adjective for that, but it wouldn't be horrible. I would love that.
Oh, you would. You like that 80s horse shit.
Hell yeah, man. Steve Vai was the guy who was playing guitar for Wyld Stallyns. That's impressive stuff.
No, was he? Because one of the God Gave Rock and Roll to You was a cover of an Argent song by Kiss.
Well, yeah, but that, I mean,
I was going to use it in my argument because I thought it was Argent, and I was like, man, who picks Argent in the Battle of the Bands over Primus? But then I was like, Kiss, and I was like, oh no, the world chose Kiss over Primus.
I mean, that
I'm not
just
going to
shows
include that.
that just shows you the influence that Wyld Stallyns has over the world. But no, the song that they actually play on stage is a Steve Vai song, but then it bleeds into Kiss for the credits.
Oh, okay.
That was on my big
okay, I gotcha.
my big like 20-song Japanese import Kiss album that I had when I was a teenager.
Jeez, Miles, you had a really weird album collection.
Dude, Kiss was my first concert.
Was
yeah?
it really? How was it?
Yeah, it was great. It was their farewell tour. It was in the year 2000. I was 15.
Wow.
Fucking, there was I think Skid Row was supposed to be there, but they never showed up. They were supposed to open. So that Ted Nugent was the opener, and he was just kind of shitty. But they were fucking awesome, dude. Gene Simmons playing bass was amazing. They had fucking fire and green lighting and
Played the bass with his penis.
I don't believe. I mean, unless that was unless that flaming spike
We were
was.
at a Dethklok show.
Speaking of, I've seen Dethklok in concert.
Hell yeah, we went to that show together, Taulbee.
Yeah, it was Dethklok and Mastodon.
And Mastodon.
Oh, I saw Mastodon in Vegas. They were amazing.
Really?
Oh,
Because
man.
they sucked at our show. They were just
Oh,
like
man,
kind of boring, and they had like this weird video playing behind them that was something to do with like Santa Claus fighting Satan,
That sounds awesome.
and like a dude
They were
was like, it was just like really boring. But then like Dethklok got on stage and just absolutely killed it.
They were the headliners for this show, but they were actually, even though they were good, they were outclassed by the opening act, which was Ghost BC.
Never heard of
So
them.
seriously,
Yeah.
So
Ghost, man.
I'm
Oh,
curious.
Ghost! Oh yeah, fuck yeah, Ghost.
Yeah, they're called Ghost BC in the States. So I'm
Oh
just
okay,
used to
yeah,
calling it
Ghost.
that.
I just don't
Yeah.
like Ghost.
So I'm curious now, Taulbee and Spike, what were your guys' first concerts now that Miles has shared his?
Mine wasn't good. It was no wait. Actually, my first concert was good. If you're into punk, it was Casualties and Agnostic Front. Their last.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. Played at the Launchpad, I think.
My first concert was better than all that. It was Vince Gill and Reba McEntire.
Wow.
Nice.
Not even joking.
nice.
I was like 10, and my mom took me.
Did they play on their grandpa's guitars?
They did. Played a lot of grandpa's guitars. yeah.
Grandpa's guitars are for pussies and for grandpas.
I think my first rock show that I saw live was Flogging Molly in El Paso.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool. Oh god, El Paso though.
Yeah.
I also saw them in Phoenix. They were really great in Phoenix because it was like an all-day music festival for St. Patty's.
Mm.
They had some like cool bands from Ireland, a band from England, Authority Zero was there, and then
Nice.
Flogging Molly.
What about you, Dan?
Well, the first concert I can remember going to was very similar to Taulbee's because it was my mom taking me to see Garth Brooks.
Oh god, I lied. I went to Garth Brooks first too. My mom took me.
What was the first concert you chose to go to,
The
Dan?
first concert I chose to go to and bought tickets for was Creed. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Hell yeah.
I'm curious though. What's the last concert you guys have been to?
Actually, possibly Raph's band. Or no. Jen's band. Was Raph in that band? Raph wasn't in that band. It was
No, you're thinking of Groove Machine.
Yeah, Groove Machine. I think that's the last live show.
Formerly local band in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
The last show I went to was sadly Dethklok. I'm not sadly. It was a great show, but I'm poor.
Yeah.
Really? You haven't been to any shows since then?
Dude, it's fucking Cruces, man.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Like we don't get anybody cool here.
They go to El
God,
Paso,
best
and then
of
we're like, do we
Texas?
want to go to El Paso? No.
The last real concert I went to was Nightwish,
Nice.
and Nightwish with Delane opening
And
and
Sabaton, right?
No. That was with you.
Oh, okay.
Sharon and I saw Nightwish.
With
Delane
Sonata Arctica, right?
Sonata Arctica,
nice.
That's right. I was there for Nightwish and Delane. Mostly Delane.
Does Sonata Arctica play a crappy live show or?
They were fine. I'm just like, I'm not as into them, and their fans are all fucking. They were all a bunch of these like U of A kids wearing like Sonata Arctica muscle shirts and
really
trying to start
weird.
mosh pits. It was really
They're
weird.
like the anti-Dethklok.
It was like all these bros showing, and they showed up. Arctica was in the middle, so they showed up like right after Delane, mobbed the middle of the show so they could try to start a mosh pit, and then left after Arctica was done.
That's weird.
It was fucking insane.
Yeah, shitty fans will put a bad taste in your mouth.
I almost got my nose broken at Dropkick Murphys. It was fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, I guess that'd be the real like last concert I went to was Dropkick and Mad Caddies at Warped Tour. Though I mean those were the bands I was there to see. There were a bunch of other bands, but I watched Mad Caddies and Dropkick Murphys.
Dan, which show did you go to yesterday?
I didn't go to a show yesterday. I think the last concert I went to was Blind Guardian.
Nice.
Yeah.
Guys,
Right on.
Kit's been gone for a while. I think something might be awry at the judge's booth.
I'm back, y'all!
Oh man.
Look at this mess you guys have made of the world.
Which I think is pretty apropos for these two bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the name of their tour when they tour together. Look at this mess you've made.
Yep.
Look at what you did. Bad Stallions. Bad Dethklok.
The opening act is just Louis C.K. yelling at them for 10 minutes.
I would go to that show.
Oh my god.
Instantly.
Tickets, please.
All right, so the Wyld Stallyns, I think it goes without saying that if they were in a Scion game, they would have their god-level charisma maxed out. And Dethklok has, like, this bad luck aura that Black Cat would, like, kill for. And taking all of your arguments and, like, really imagining how this weird rock revolution war thing would happen, I think that at the end of the day, just that go-getter attitude and spirit is what's gonna it's just gonna lead to the Wyld Stallyns.
Brutal.
Like, just saving the world.
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
the-
you know what? I can't even be mad because, like, this was so hard because I love both bands so
Right.
much.
That was
yeah.
for Ash versus Jurassic Park, you dickweeds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
man,
job, you guys.
that was a really fun match to listen to, though.
Oh man, fantastic arguments.
I loved the thing about the time stream
Yes,
so
that
much.
was so good. That was
my favorite
That's
thing.
what happens when you do a bunch of cocaine. No, I felt cool about doing the research for this because I was like, I'm actually learning. Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. Didn't know that before today.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
You're kind of
Yeah.
like Bill and Ted. You just learned some shit.
Yeah.
Don't ever let it happen again.
Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us, guys.
I'm sure you have things you would like to plug.
Me and Josh do a couple of podcasts. We do the Sup Nerds podcast. You can check us out on iTunes. Type in Sup Nerds. If you do that, also our D&D actual play podcast will pop up. It's called Death Save.
I also do a YouTube channel where I make cosplay.
Just type in Sup Nerds
Sup
to the
Nerds.
internet.
You'll find us.
Yeah, basically.
Go outside and yell Sup Nerds, and we'll answer. We'll answer the call.
If
Just
you
turn on the
like-
Sup Nerds signal.
If you like listening to two funny dudes just chatting about geek shit in a way less strict format than Smash Fiction.
Also, their D&D podcast is totally going Lovecraftian recently, so there's that.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah, very
Oh.
Victorian.
You
Lovecraft.
never go full of Lovecraftian.
Very good.
I got a teacup pig with tentacles on it. It's real cute and disgusting. But yeah, totally. Thanks for having us, guys. It's always awesome coming on.
Always a pleasure to have you on.
All right. Only one shout out. Sorry if I forgot anyone. A good old friend, Paladin Today. I think he follows you guys too, right?
He does. He's the coolest.
Yeah, he's great. He tweeted about Extraordinary League. He is having a good old time with that. So thank you. Thank you
good.
for letting people know.
I was a big fan of this last session, so...
That last episode of Extraordinary League might be like, it's my top 5 things that I've been a part of.
Yeah,
Aw.
it was pretty great.
Thank you for listening to Smash Fiction, guys. Next week, Wander versus Cthulhu.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo designed by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction Podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
I'm doing very little Toki, Kit. I'm sorry.
I just realized how much Toki sounds like the female chick from Werewolf. Werewolf.
Oh, shit!
No, use this werewolf, Toki.
Skwisgaar, you am the werewolf.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I am werewolf.
No, I am.
You knows
Jim.
it.
He knows it.
I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but this call quality is garbage.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
like
don't.
Kit, you sound like you're using a really shitty form of like auto-tune.
Yeah.
It's appropriate for this match, you know?
Oh, there you
It's
go.
metal. It sounds like you guys are in a can, like a real metal can. No? Okay.
Shut up, Spike.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. It's alright, the joke quality's gonna go uphill from here, right? I mean, right?
No,
I mean-
no, that was my lead singer.